Good evening and welcome to Have I Got News For You? I'm Damien Lewis. In the news this week, arriving at the Lib Dem conference, one grassroots activist scans the hall for a friendly face. As a flustered Prime Minister arrives 40 minutes late for a cabinet meeting, a loyal colleague tries to subtly let his boss know he seems to have some lipstick on his face. At a birthday party in Moscow, after a leading critic of the regime returns from a celebratory cup of tea with Vladimir Putin, only the family pet can smell the polonium. On Ian's team tonight is a political journalist who hosts a podcast entitled Women with Balls. I bet J.K. Rowling doesn't like that. Please welcome Katie Balls. With Paul is a blind comedian who says COVID hasn't really affected his life much, although he has had to buy a 2-metre-long white stick. Please welcome Chris McCausland. Now, I'd just like to reassure any COVID police who are watching that there is a small, socially distanced studio audience here, as well as some more people in the cinema next door who are watching this on a big screen. Or they say they are, they're probably watching Tenet. And here in the studio, we're all shielded from each other by a Perspex screen. I hope it's not too unsettling for you. Ian, I suppose it's a bit like when you used to buy your bottle of Thunderbird from that off-licence in Camberwell.
I feel like I'm prison visiting, actually.
We begin with the bigger news stories of the week. As usual, Ian and Katie, what is this all about?
So we have the Prime Minister. I think he's attempting to build a cabinet.
It's an apprentice scheme which he's going to apply for. I think that's...
Students being locked up. This is what £9,000 a year looks like in 2020. And this is the Health Secretary, I think, making an argument for social distancing.
Right, yes, pretty much on it, you two. This is the continuing predicament of the nation's students, neatly summed up by Zoe in Manchester, who told The Guardian, "I'm learning online, so I haven't even met my course mates. I missed the end of school prom and I was effed about with my A-levels. Not being able to go out now is shit."
This is just this completely unforeseeable event, October, which just came along and hit the government out the blue. I mean, no one had any idea that term started normally in October, and that there would be a lot of students all together. They hadn't taken any precautions, and they were completely amazed.
Well, I think Dido Harding, the head of Test and Trace, said that it just could not have been foreseen. And as we've seen, after the government messed with A-levels, students, did eventually, following a U-turn, manage to get their places at their preferred universities, or at least most did. But then the slight catches was when they turned out, they realised they could never leave ever again.
What have students at Manchester Metropolitan University been doing?
Have they been protesting, putting messages in their window?
They have been putting amusing notes in their windows. Send nudes, weed, food, yes.
I can't believe that telling students to stay in bed has caused such a problem, to be honest. When I was in uni, I used to self-isolate every day until at least the second show with the neighbours.
There's a lot of sympathy for the students, even in the
Yes.
House of Lords. Have a look at this.
On testing students, we are pro-spit, we are pro-breath, and we are pro-poo. We are using every single bit of your body to test the hell out of you.
Those are inspiring words, aren't they? Any chance of them printed up on a T-shirt?
Gavin Williamson's got a plan to allow students to come home for Christmas. What is it?
Is it to take the SNP approach and get the train and then just apologise for it afterwards?
There's an SNP MP who's just been caught. You've probably been sitting here.
About 10 minutes ago, it was very hot off the press.
That's Margaret Ferrier, an SNP MP who's apologised for breaching COVID restrictions.
She's now the Prime Minister's special advisor. She positively tested and then decided to get the train home. Yes, that's
Having
bad,
spoken in the
isn't it?
House of Commons.
So by the time this goes out, she may have been sacked. Though with the current record of politicians being sacked for breaking the rules, what do you think?
What's been Boris Johnson's contribution to the well-being of the nation this week?
Well, I mean, I do hope, first of all, we're going to take the Director General's advice seriously and not make this one of those boring comedy programmes that goes on about the Prime Minister the whole time. Because, you know, I think essentially we need to get behind him.
Yes.
That's one way of not getting pregnant, I suppose.
Now, alternatively, we could just admit that, as usual, he's got absolutely everything wrong. He's set up a new set of regulations for the North East, which he can't even remember. So he expects other people to obey regulations which he can't get into his own head.
It's confusing though, isn't it? There's parts of the country where if you're in an established relationship but you don't live together, then you can have sex but only in the garden. Get caught having sex in the park, what are you doing? We haven't got a garden, we're following government guidelines.
Through the letterbox.
Boris was asked if you can meet up with 6 people indoors in the North East, and he said no, which is right. You can't unless you're not in the North East, which in case you can. Boris also said you can meet up with 6 people outside, which you can, but just not in the North East, which is where Boris was asked about it in the first place. You got it?
I've got it. Has he got it?
Nick Forbes, the Labour leader of Newcastle City Council, said, you can't just bluster your way through situations like this. Nick, have you not been following his career? And who else has been breaking COVID rules apart from Margaret Ferrier?
Boris Johnson's dad, Stanley, has been breaking the rules. He hasn't been wearing a mask.
Yeah, it's true. We've got a picture of him. There he is, buying Chupa Chups unmasked.
How long has he been working in that corner shop?
Stanley wasn't the only one breaking the rules. Here's the Sun's front page on Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a dinner party, Jeremy Corbyn was there with, it was 9 of them in all.
Yes, and what I like about this photo is you can see that half of them have realised, as the camera has got it, this is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But it's too late to move and stop it.
I like the fact that the Sun's given us an arrow pointing out Jeremy Corbyn in case we've forgotten who he was.
I like the idea that he said afterwards it was a mistake in that he can't count to 9.
It's not the first time he's ruined a party. Tory...
Don't clap out of sympathy, it sounds terrible.
Tory backbenchers and your magazine, Katie, are giving Boris Johnson a bit of a hard time at the moment. What do they want?
I think they want him to probably, A, know the rules, and 2, have a bit of a grip. But lots of people think he is not the leader he promised to be. So you have lots of angry Tory MPs at the moment.
It's a strange world where the Director General is very worried that the BBC is too left-wing, but the Daily Telegraph and the Spectator are criticising the Conservative Prime Minister. How right-wing does he want the Beeb to be?
Who's going to put a stop to all this BBC pinko leftiness?
Well, thank goodness we're going to get a new chairman. I think we're going to get Charles Moore, Lord Moore, who used to be the editor of the Telegraph and the editor of the Spectator. So, I mean, I think what we need is essentially the government says the BBC's out of touch. It needs to have someone who's more representative of the Britain that exists. So we're having an old Etonian peer. Charles Moore, who doesn't watch television and was prosecuted for refusing to pay a licence fee. It's a choice.
I think the good news, Ian, is they've still got to go through the entire application process, so there's still time for you to apply.
Good. That would be good. I can think of one sacking.
What are you looking at me for?
There was a major piece of public interest investigative journalism this week in The Sun.
Oh, did they find the place where you could have a drink past 10 p.m?
Yes, they did. A Sun reporter found a pub where you can legally get a drink after 10 p.m, and here he is. There he is.
Looks fine.
It's a Weatherspoons. Wahey! Spoon, spoon, spoon. It's called the Hope and Champion, and it's on the M40, if anyone's interested. It's allowed to serve alcohol because it's in a motorway services.
That's a hell of a coffee machine they got there. That bloke's pushing at the back.
I love the 10 o'clock curfew, though. That's another of those things that when they instituted the curfew, they had no idea that everyone would leave the pub at the same time and hang around on the pavement all together, hundreds of people, not socially distanced, breathing. How on earth are you meant to know these things?
But I think now Boris Johnson's coming under pressure to simplify the rules. But it's quite good because now they have the benchmark, which is they just need to ask themselves, are they simple enough for the Prime Minister to understand?
So the grind of government goes on, but who's on manoeuvres in the party?
Oh, right, the Prime Minister's neighbour, Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's quite an easy job at the moment, being Chancellor. I mean, you say, would you like an enormous amount of money? And everyone says it's not enough. You go, OK, here's some more. And then people go, that's fantastic. As Chancellors go, he is extraordinarily adept.
It'd be lovely if he'd help out the live entertainment industry a little bit more, though, you know?
Yeah.
Rather than just letting it die a slow death.
Yeah, I agree.
It's no joke, just
Yeah. Serious comment, yeah.
I mean, I'm grateful I'm on here, you know, but like...
And you've been promised a bed for the night, haven't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, as Chris is saying, live comedy club.
It's safer than me driving home, Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what Dominic Cummings said.
Brexit's still happening, of course. Anyone want to talk about that? I sort of felt myself dying halfway through that question. Brexit and immigration are tied up with each other, of course. And so what are the Home Office's plans to deal with illegal immigration and asylum seekers?
Stick him in a volcano.
It's not far off. Ascension Island was an idea. I think it was mooted for a few minutes.
I think more than a few minutes, potentially.
Was it?
I mean, Priti Patel did, at the election, stress that she was going to be very, strong and tough on immigration. But I think even her supporters hadn't thought that involved a volcanic island. But it turns out, of the ideas they're currently looking at to try and deter people from crossing the Channel, one was to send people 4,000 miles away to this Ascension Island, though there's not currently a travel corridor, I don't think.
Was the refuelling stop during the Falklands? The war, Ascension Island, was you stopped there and you went on. And there's about 1,000 people there, but it's incredibly difficult to get to and very expensive. So the idea that you'd pick up all the immigrants off the Kent coast and then ship them to Ascension Island, somehow this would be cheaper.
Yeah.
Couldn't we put mirrors up on the beaches so when they see that, they see the reflection of themselves and they'll turn and they'll go to Ascension Island of their own volition?
Now, that is a sensible idea.
Yes.
Maybe they were just going to do what they've done with the airports and rename it London Ascension Island. Get a Ryanair flight there.
Yeah.
Does anyone else feel cold? Does it feel cold in here? It does feel a bit... I'm freezing.
Well, you're going to be colder in the Lake District, where we're going next.
Yeah, good link.
You're very poorly.
Yeah.
And you're halfway up Clint's Crags.
I beg your pardon? I barely know the woman.
Who are you going to call?
Oh, this is the man on the jetpack, the new jetpack scheme. You can go up a mountain in about sort of 30 seconds as opposed to sort of like taking an hour and a half to get up there. So he's going to sort of like, he's got a jetpack, he's got St. Bernard's dog with a jetpack in the winter months, and he throws a St. Bernard's dog at you, and then you drink the brandy and you throw the dog back, and you'll get on the jetpack and you fly back down the mountain.
Here he is. Have a look at him. Amazing. Although his first patient suffered third-degree burns when he landed on it.
I think you should give people who've been to the pub one of those. Watch the skies at 10:05.
This is the enforced isolation of thousands of students. There is, however, some good COVID news on the horizon, as a group of top Oxford University scientists are confident that they are just weeks away from working out what the lockdown rules are in Newcastle. One poor 19-year-old girl says she has been stuck in Inverness for 2 weeks now and just wants to get back home to Southampton. She's not a student. That was her nearest COVID test. Also this week, the Home Office have been criticised over leaked plans to keep asylum seekers away from Britain. Priti Patel was very keen on the idea of dumping asylum seekers in the middle of the South Atlantic, but after civil servants objected, she compromised and said it could be on an island. Paul and Chris, take a look at this.
Yeah. Donald Trump clapping himself and making sort of gestures with his arms. Then we're going to Joe Biden, who seems to be sort of hearing music that only he can hear and dancing to. They're now searching for Donald Trump's moral fibre. They're looking for it in a laboratory. Okay, so it's the debates.
Yes, this was the first presidential debate, which was basically two angry old white men shouting at each other about what's wrong with the world. We're back in Wetherspoons.
They didn't get round to the world. They just slagged off each other.
You've got to accept that Trump was the one that set the tone for this.
Yeah, I do entirely, but I just think it used to be that the Democrats said, if they go low, we'll go high. And this year they think, let's both go low.
Trump praised a far-right group called the Proud Boys, telling them to stand by. A couple of days later, he said he'd never heard of them, even though he'd been the one that had mentioned them first.
Yeah, I think the bleach has gone to his head.
I watch a lot of CNN, and I didn't watch the actual debate go out, but I watched their reaction immediately afterwards, and they were stunned and horrified. And
well, you're going to love this then, because you know all about what Jake Tapper called it, which was this.
Yes, yeah.
A hot mess inside a dumpster fire inside a train wreck. Dana Bash came up with this refreshing angle on the extraordinary debate.
I'm just going to say it like it is. That was a shit show.
She could have been describing any moment from the past 4 years, of course.
A lot of people have said that the real losers are the American people, but not all of them, because a lot of them did vote for him.
You get the leaders you deserve, but you've got to be careful of throwing stones in that particular glass. Right now. Shall we have a look at some of these highlights? Because they're pretty, they're pretty stunning, jaw-droppingly unpresidential moments here.
Absolutely.
It's your administration. That's not an idea.
Everybody in your administration tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas that are...
I never said it.
Okay.
That is what he did is
you're done in this segment.
He called the military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape. He said stupid bastards.
Please, sir, stop.
It literally sounds like you're playing two separate programs on the two tellies.
The Commission on Presidential Debates, which sponsors and produces the events, made clear that they are now looking at additional tools to maintain order for the next debates. What bigger tools could they find?
Surely they could just mute the microphones.
This is one of the things they're talking about, because there's no good at coming up with a set of rules. Trump's not going to obey them.
Yeah,
all the
breaking the rules. I mean, that's how he's got where he is.
Yeah.
And not paying taxes. You know, it's all the same pattern. And the thing about Trump's taxes should have come up. I mean, the President of the United States has paid no tax. He's avoided paying tax deliberately for most of his whole career.
10 out of the last 15 years. And for 2016, 2017, he paid $750. He's paid more to a former porn actress than he has paid into the American tax system.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, there was no audience at the debate. How does Biden like to ensure he usually receives a good reception from a crowd? A video emerged this week of him making a speech to US troops in 2016. Let's have a look at Biden's unique method of warming up the crowd.
Understanding what you may hear about me, I have incredibly good judgment. One, I married Jill. And two, I appointed Johnson to the Academy. I just want you to know that. Just clap for that, you stupid bastards.
Donald Trump demanded that the 77-year-old Joe Biden take a drug test before the 90-minute debate by giving a urine sample. Biden refused until just before the end, when he couldn't hold it in any longer. The Trump campaign also said that Biden would be being fed lines through an earpiece, which Biden furiously denied, though at one point he did tell Trump, "Shut up, I can't hear somebody else think."
Come on, clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Donald was aggressive in tone. I think we've all agreed. But was anyone surprised? by his tactics.
The guy hosting it, Chris Wallace, I think his name, a Fox News guy, said yesterday that he was astonished that this had happened. He had never seen anything like it in 40 years of politics.
Yes, we all know the president likes to spring a surprise, and no one knows that more than Serbian President Alexander Vucic, who is here on Trump's right. He appears to have been tricked into signing something he didn't agree to. See if you can spot the moment he realizes he's been had.
Serbia is committed to opening a commercial office in Jerusalem this month and to move its embassy to Jerusalem in July. That's fantastic. That's a big thing. That's a very big statement, and we appreciate that very much. It's taken tremendous bravery by the president of Serbia and the president of Kosovo, who are with me today, two highly respected people.
Trump defended his behaviour by calling it fake news. And who's been doing their bit to rally against fake news recently? I would be astounded if you got this, I would say that.
Evening Standard, George Osborne, editor of.
It's the Scouts.
The Scouts?
Scouts.
Well, they've
have
got to do with
introduced
George
a new
Osborne.
Oh, they've got a
digital
media
citizen
badge.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant.
A digital citizen badge. There it is.
Excellent.
Also a track and trace badge for the Scouts. According to The Guardian, it will be an opportunity for Scouts to show that they can spot the difference between facts and opinions and consider how easy or hard it is to know if evidence is reliable or not. When they spot something dodgy, they have to shout, fib, fib, fib. Thought that Ivanka Trump may hold presidential ambitions of her own and may join the race to be president in 2024. Who might she be joined by? Meghan Markle. A close friend told Vanity Fair that one of the reasons she was keen not to give up her American citizenship was so she had the option to go into politics. Blimey. And the Queen thought Trump's state visit was awkward. This is the first of the presidential debates. At one point, Joe Biden stunned viewers when he told Donald Trump to shut up. Quite a moment. The last time a president was told to shut up was when someone told Abraham Lincoln to stop screaming in the middle of the play. Once the debate was over, Biden's advisors were just relieved that he'd stayed standing up for 90 minutes, though the picture does suggest his podium was actually a converted Zimmer frame.
I know we say there shouldn't be age discrimination in the world, but surely you should be setting your goals of, like, is he likely to last?
He's only got to last till November the 3rd. To be honest.
Yeah.
There we go. There we are. For round two, we begin with an audio clue. Here's the gramophone of news. Fingers on buzzers. Here it comes. Put that in. There you go.
That's the theme tune of Mock the Week. That's the theme music to Have I Got News For You?
Yes, is the correct answer. Yes, as
That really wasn't the first question, was it?
Have I Got News For You celebrates a significant anniversary. As a nod to the show being on for 30 years, shall we have a quick quiz about what was happening in 1990?
Jesus.
As you've got the prop, yeah.
Yeah. When was you born, Katie?
89, so I'm going to apologise now for this round.
I was 13, so unless it's about Super Mario and things that make you go blind, I've got no chance.
I want you to tell me who is this and what was their great achievement in 1990.
I don't promise you that it will be easy, and I don't promise you that it will be quick.
That is John Major. He'd just taken over from Margaret Thatcher. She was Prime Minister when this show started. After she'd been Prime Minister for, 11 years, and she couldn't take the pressure of a weekly topical quiz show on BBC Two. So she left, and John Major became the Prime Minister.
That is the correct answer. And what did he then do on television? He was the first person to do it.
He introduced the Cones hotline.
He delivered the budget live on TV. Do you want to see a clip?
No.
Nah, it's too dull. Too dull. In the same week, Have I Got News For You aired. It was also the first episode of which groundbreaking sitcom?
Ooh, do I lose or just say it?
Was it One Foot in the Grave?
Was it Men Behaving Badly?
Hi, oh honey, I'm home.
Oh, yes, BS.
Let's have a look.
Well, honey, I'm home.
Kyle, honey, me.
What did I do now? Oh, tonight you were making schnitzel. What a joke. You must be real mad at me, honey. I'm a very, very bad Hitler.
Not one of his greatest crimes, perhaps. The director will be pleased to see her name come up on the credits there, unlike everybody else. So this was a Sky Beat programme, wasn't it? Which was very heavily criticised at the time, and I'm not sure it even had its complete run.
It's not on Netflix.
Who says we don't show you any right-wing comedy on the BBC? On the subject of moustaches, whose tash is this from 1990?
Is that Peter Mandelson?
Is the correct answer.
You've been close enough to see that moustache?
I tell you, the 90s were pretty wild.
Ian means the 1890s.
I was expecting a sound clip of the moustache. I thought it was going to be a particularly noisy moustache.
Yeah, it seems a bit unfair when Chris to show him a picture of a moustache and say, who is this?
I'm just glad to be here, Paul.
Yeah, he's glad to be here.
You're right, they should have got a replica of the moustache and put it on front of you. You could have felt it.
Well, he might not have known it was a moustache, but let's leave it there. Still thinking about the answer with Peter Mandelson, but by a different route.
Who in 1990 was described as being sexier than Richard Gere?
John Major.
Let's see if you're right.
And he's joined by a Sunday Times journalist and Booker Prize judge, someone who once described Ian Hislop as sexier than Richard Gere, Kate Saunders.
Blimey, I owe her.
Who is this, and what was their great achievement in 1990?
It is not merely stunned, it has ceased to be, expired, and gone to meet its maker.
It was Mrs. Thatcher making a joke, which only happened once in 3 decades.
I mean, I wasn't there to remember it, but back in 1990, you clearly had, Tory government, 10 years or so in power. You had a Tory leader with a very difficult backbenchers, knives out to get them, and the economy going down the pan. So it feels good that we've moved on so far.
Yeah. Who wants to play a quick game of what was Maggie up to? I'm going to show you a picture of Maggie in 1990, and all you have to do is tell me what was Maggie up to. Here's the first one.
Being a
There you go.
There we are.
I mean, I can't see the picture, I'm just guessing, but I think I'm probably...
There speaks a proud Liverpudlian.
Yeah.
I think to give the editor something to do, that would wake him up. It looks like she's blowing something up, sort of like pressing down on something, or is she riding a cow?
She was flying a kite with President George Bush. It's from those carefree, happy days when a British Prime Minister and an American President could release things into the air without destabilising the Middle East, undermining global security and accidentally creating ISIS. And what was Maggie up to here?
Do you want me to buzz in again?
That could become a catchphrase for you. She's cutting the ribbons at a supermarket, an abattoir in Burnley. I've no idea.
You're actually not far off, either of you. She was having a drink with the cast of Coronation Street.
It's quite far off.
This is the news that it's been 30 years since Have I Got News For You was first broadcast. John Major became Prime Minister in 1990. His 7-year premiership had a lot of ups and downs, most of them on Edwina Currie. In 1990, Chancellor John Major gave the first ever live televised budget in which he set aside funds to improve crowd safety at football matches. To be fair, they're bloody safe now. Neil Kinnock was the Labour leader in 1990 when 34% of people agreed with the statement, Mr Kinnock is confused and long-winded. Kinnock rebutted the charge in a speech which is due to finish just about now. which means at the end of this round, it's Ian and Katie with 4 points and Paul and Chris with 4 points. Time now for the odd one out round. Just one between you this week. Your 4 are Emily Maitlis, Alan and Elaine from Wales, Matt Hancock and the Duke of Gloucester.
Out of that 4, Elaine's the only one who's got any teeth. And the gap in her teeth, she's growing, especially for the Duke of Gloucester, who's changed a bit since the last time I saw him. The last time I saw him, he was a pub in the Old Kent Road. What's that? What, Elaine and who? Did you say who is that?
Alan.
They broke the internet with their old telly.
Oh, yes.
Did they?
Yes. It was giving off such levels of radiation or electrical interference that it broke the internet for the whole village.
What is the scientific explanation for this? How can a TV being turned on knock the internet out?
I'm an actor, Paul.
You've kept that quiet.
I've got a connection between 2 of them.
Go on then.
I think.
Yeah.
Emily Maitlis accidentally called Hull hell. She meant Hull. Satan was furious. Matt Hancock got
the Duke of Gloucester.
Marcus Rashford's name wrong. So there's 2 people getting things wrong.
And it was their fault, but the pensioners, it wasn't their fault, it was the fault of their telly, so they're the odd one out.
So close. They've all embarrassed themselves on TV, apart from a couple in Wales who embarrassed themselves with a TV. Alan and Elaine recently discovered that every time they turned on their TV in the morning to watch Piers Morgan, it would knock out the broadband for the entire village.
Where can you get a TV like that?
How quickly did they cotton on to what was happening?
It's like a year, wasn't it?
It took 18 months. And BBC presenter Emily Maitlis, whilst introducing former Health Secretary Alan Johnson on Newsnight, she had an unfortunate slip of the tongue. Let's take a look.
Labour's former Health Secretary Alan Johnson joins us down the line from hell.
It was an honest explanation for the mix-up. She was accidentally reading her notes from the Prince Andrew interview. And BBC Breakfast weatherman Matt Taylor. He was asked live on air whether he was a fan of Rick Astley.
Oh, right.
Let's look at his response.
In northwest Scotland and a cool day in the wind too. Charlie and Louise, back to you both.
Oh, thank you.
Matt, are you a Rick Astley fan?
Not a massive one, but I was around.
Well, that was the wrong thing to say.
Around.
He's listening and he's coming up in just a moment. I'll ask you again. Are you a Rick Astley fan?
Love Rick Astley. Best.
Wait, he's coming up next, so we'll be very pleased to hear that.
Ian, are you a fan of Rick Astley?
Yeah, is he in the audience?
Can we get to then the Duke of Gloucester? After the government's recent handling of students, a clip from a documentary went viral. Let's have a look why.
You know, there are some things that you're interested in and some that you're not, and it's slightly difficult to feign an interest.
And is this an insulated roof or is it scrum when it rains?
For anyone wondering about the answer to the question, it was, yes, sir, the roof is insulated. Not as much as you are from real life. And then Matt Hancock managed to publicly embarrass himself. How?
I just don't know how long you've got. It's been a very, very long year.
Want Ian to give his answers in alphabetical order? Or?
Shall we have a look?
Yeah, of course the testing is important, but the first line of defence is people following the social distancing rules and self-isolating if that's what's necessary.
Matt Hancock, Health Secretary, thank you for your time with us this morning.
It's very good to have me on. Thank you very much.
Yes, they've all embarrassed themselves on TV, apart from Alan and Elaine from Wales, who embarrassed themselves with a TV. One second-hand TV wiped out the internet in an entire Welsh village. Engineers walked around the village trying to locate an electrical buzzing noise, which is really annoying for Mrs. Jenkins at number 37, who was trying to enjoy herself while her husband was away.
Have you checked that there isn't a Mrs. Jenkins living at number 37? No, you haven't, have you?
I know their husband's been away, though. Time now for the Missing Words round, which this week features as its guest publication, the Horsham Amateur Radio Club newsletter. We start with Illinois man has kept Richard Nixon's what for 60 years?
Beard. Suit.
Sweat.
Sweat, yes, I bet that's right, because this will be the Kennedy debate where he sweated a lot. I bet Ian's right, it is sweat, isn't it?
Unfinished sandwich in his freezer. This is Steve Jenn, who proudly boasted this week that he has kept Richard Nixon's half-eaten sandwich in his freezer for 60 years.
Describe the sandwich to me, Paul.
OK, well,
it's grey.
Actually, it's not the oddest thing in his freezer. That's his mum's body. Next, we've got BBC's decision to roll out what comes as a surprise to what?
BBC's decision to roll out questions about the news in 1990 comes as a complete surprise to guests on Have I Got News For You?
We were 13 at the time.
New local radio jingle comes as a surprise to members of the Horsham Amateur Radio Club. Next, Cherie Blair reveals that Tony refuses to what around the house?
No.
Run.
Social distance.
Skip.
It's help.
Do the cleaning. Ian, is the correct answer. Cherie Blair made the shocking admission this week in an interview on Times Radio saying, I'm afraid housework and cooking have never been high on his agenda. He has opened the cookbooks and loves looking at the pictures. It's true, Tony Blair doesn't do much housework. In fact, the only time he really cleans up is when he makes a speech. Or does some PR for a murderous dictator.
There's the balance.
Tony Blair never gets involved in washing up or drying the dishes, mainly because whenever he tries to deal with a rack, it ends in disaster.
That's true, that.
Next, man sets new land speed record using what?
Rocket-powered B-Day.
Yeah.
I mean, general ballpark.
Car.
It was a bin.
Car?
Is the correct answer. I'm going to give it to you. Wheelie bin. Man sets new land speed record using his wheelie bin. This is Andy Jennings from Swindon, who this week set the world record for the fastest wheelie bin.
You've got to be quick putting your rubbish out around there, haven't you?
It's powered by a motorbike engine and can reach speeds of 45 miles an hour, but ironically, there's one thing he can't do with it, a wheelie. Next, parrot who taught what removed from Lincolnshire Wildlife Park?
Swear words to monkeys.
Gavin Williamson, everything he knows.
Parrot who taught algebra to ocelots.
Stay on your first answer because you had half the answer.
Oh, you okay. Parrot who taught swearing to visitors, to children visiting, to monkeys, to toads.
Is the correct answer in there somewhere. Parrots who taught the other parrots to swear at visitors. Removed from Lincolnshire Wildlife
Here comes
Park.
Margaret Thatcher. That's a waste because they're not going to use him saying so I don't want to bother saying that.
This week, the Wildlife Park revealed it had to separate a group of grey parrots after one of the birds taught the others how to swear at tourists. African grey parrots are particularly adept at learning vocalisations from all sorts of noises, said an African grey parrot. And finally, unusual sculpture depicting John Paul II holding what unveiled in Warsaw?
A midnight orgy in a nunnery. But no nuns were present. They were on an annual holiday in Blackpool. Holding up traffic on the M40.
Is it mass?
The answer is meteorite. And here's the sculpture.
Oh, yes. Looks
This
like
is
a
this is a game they play to pass the time at the Vatican. Rock Papal Schism. So, the final scores are Ian and Katie with 7.
Yes.
Paul and Chris getting their noses in front with 8.
Well done, Chris.
But before we go, there's just time for the caption competition.
What? That's the most stupid picture I've ever seen.
That works as a caption.
Why is he offering him sausages?
I had this described to me before we came out to film, and I just thought, I'm really glad I'm not expected to participate in this bit.
Next.
I'm shooting the rabbit. What's your excuse?
On which note, we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Katie Pauls.
Go back.
Go, he's got more, he's got more.
No, I don't know. No, it's a dementia joke, so it wouldn't be funny. One move and the cat gets it, but no, it doesn't matter. Oh, I've got one. Oh, no, it's a dementia joke, doesn't matter.
And I leave you with news that trials of AstraZeneca's coronavirus vaccine are halted after the discovery of minor side effects. As he demonstrates the simplicity of the new track and trace app, there's embarrassment for Boris Johnson as he fails to locate Rishi Sunak. And in Westminster, one man fights a losing battle against a dodgy prawn biryani. Good night.